the Kalamazoo River. Hello from Michigan. How do you pronounce the name of this place again?
Saugatuck?
Hello from Saugatuck in Michigan. We are here spending some family time this weekend. We are here with Rachel's parents. There are no plans for this weekend other than just walking around town. I didn't think it was a good time for my regular photography, but I still want to do something. So I brought a different camera for these 2 days. So I brought this one. This is actually Rachel's camera. It's the Fuji X100T. And I think I've talked about this camera before in this channel, but I don't think I've ever done an episode on it. So why not do it this time? I'll be talking about this camera during the video and sharing my thoughts and experience using it. Rachel is gonna make some pictures with it too. So yeah, let's do it. Good morning from Oval Beach. I've been shooting with the Fuji for a few hours now. This is very different to what I'm used to with the Sony. It's more tactile because it has all these controls. One thing I don't know if I like is the exposure compensation dial. It has fixed marks. Unlike the Sony has a dial that is unmarked. It only changes the exposure when the camera is on. This one you can change it with the camera being off, and then for example I can move it to -2, and then when I turn on the camera it's gonna be set to -2. So that has advantages, and is that you always know what the exposure compensation is. Here, just by looking at the dial, it has disadvantages, and is that when the camera is off and you put it in your backpack or whatever, you can move it and you might not realize. The aperture, you control the aperture here manually, and the shutter speed here. I usually have them both to automatic. That's how I shoot the Sony too. That would be like P mode. All these controls are nice, but the way I shoot these kind of cameras is just in automatic in P mode, so I don't know if they are very useful for me, and I'm almost afraid of changing the settings without even noticing it. Another thing, the screen is fixed, it doesn't tilt. That is a big disadvantage when you're shooting high or low. The menus are not that great. People complain a lot about the Sony menus, but I find this to be as messy as the other ones. Very nice, it's very well built. The viewfinder, I like it a lot. This probably because it has very low resolution, and I don't know, it just makes the photos look better than they actually are, because you know that I like photos that don't have a lot of detail. Losing a lot of resolution on the viewfinder makes them look better, but then on the computer they look sharp and they don't look as good, in my opinion. Very light, so I just have it with the strap. It's very nice to have on you. It doesn't weigh much. Anyway, we just came to this beach for sunrise. There are not many things to photograph here, so we're gonna head back and have some breakfast, and I know what we are gonna do next, but yeah, it should be fun. By the way, one funny thing that I noticed last night, I'm noticing now again, is that this camera chooses really funny shutter speeds. Like I just took a photo and it chose 1/5 of a second. Last night was doing like 1/27 of a second, 1/11 of a second, and I'm not used to see those shutter speeds. My Sony camera goes for thirds of stops or something like that. So it's just funny to see how this camera chooses those shutter speeds. So we just walked 40 minutes on this road just to find the cafe closed. They closed today. Good thing there is another one in front.
Where'd he go? Oh, to get his tablet?
Busy. Messi and that's it. And Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay, so back in the room. This weekend, the Spanish Soccer League started, so I was just watching a game between my team and Real Madrid, but they are losing. So a couple things I forgot to mention. The first one is that we are shooting in JPEG. I love the film simulations in this camera. We have it set to monochrome with the red filter. I'm shooting with the exposure compensation set to -1. That's to create really dark shadows and lose some of the detail there. And then in post, I'm gonna brighten the white to make the exposure a little bit more right and more balanced. Another thing that I really love about this camera is the built-in ND filter. I believe it's 3 stops, but correct me if I'm wrong. But that is allowing me to shoot at wide apertures like f2, even in bright conditions like right now. So I really like that. Oh, and we are shooting in 3x2 instead of a square. I thought that a change could be nice. It's been a while since I composed and thought in 3x2, and I believe that switching it up sometimes it could be good creatively for you. So that's what I'm trying to do this weekend, and yeah, it's been fun so far.
You guys would like this.
So this lens is a 35mm lens, and we also have this little thingy here that is what's the name? Conversion lens. I don't know, but it converts the thing in a 50mm. But the bad thing is that you have to take this ring out of here. There you go. And now you got yourself a 50mm lens. It's a little bit bulky, but the problem is that I know, I mean, you have to keep this somewhere, but anyway. So another thing that you have to do when you mount this on here, it doesn't have any electronic connections or anything. So you have to go in the menu, tell the camera that you are using this so it can correct the JPEGs accordingly. There is another conversion lens from 35 to 28 millimeters, I believe, but these are not cheap and I don't know if it's worth to those extra 7 millimeters. If it went down to 24 or 20 maybe, but 28 maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. The images look pretty great with this. I don't know if the equivalent aperture is still f2 or it goes down to f2.8 or something. Yeah, let's shoot with the 50 for a while. Alright, good morning. So this is our last day here, actually last probably couple of hours. We are leaving early and yeah, it was hard to wake up today, but we are still walking to the beach just to one last time shooting the Fuji around Saugatuck, and then at the beach I'll be giving you my conclusions and final thoughts on this camera. But first I have to have a little bit of coffee. Okay, thank you. Alright, so we're not going down to the beach because we are kind of clean. We don't want to get our shoes full of sand or anything like that. But yeah, my final thoughts on the Fuji X100T. I've used this camera on and off over the last 5 years. As I said, it belongs to Rachel. It's been a good camera. The build, the construction is good, as I said, and it looks durable. It still works just fine. I like it overall compared to what I'm used to. That is my Sony cameras. I do like, as I said, the tactile approach of this camera, even though I don't really use any of the dials that much. I set them to automatic and I just use the exposure compensation. The thing is, sometimes cut it.
It's funny.
This conversion lens is very nice, so even though this camera is a fixed lens camera, it's 35, sometimes you need something else. That's why I like ILCs, that is interchangeable lens cameras, because they are more flexible for the kind of photography that I do, travel photography, and they let you shoot wide or telephoto. And this one kind of does the same thing. It's a little bit more inconvenient than having one of the other cameras, because unscrewing the lens from here, it takes a little while. The Sony cameras or any other camera with the button, the lens is off and you can just put the other one. Also, it's not as easy to store. You have to take the ring out of here and there is no place for it. I have it in my pocket now, but you know, something that you can easily lose. It's nice to have the option, at least. Another thing is the autofocus is not the main feature that I'm looking for in a camera, but the autofocus is noticeable worse here than in my Sony cameras, even in the A6000, even worse in low light. Sometimes it just can't acquire focus. Otherwise, just for landscape and outdoor photography, the autofocus is just fine. What I've been doing this weekend, that is shooting in JPEG with this camera, is something that I couldn't do with my Sony cameras, because I don't like the JPEGs that come out from those cameras at all. These ones are just fine. I still prefer to shoot in RAW and then tweak them, those photos in Lightroom to make them the way I like, the way I want. This was all about this camera. If you have any questions about it, or if you have any other comments, or if you have one of these and you want to share your experience, or maybe you have the new models, the S or the F, there are 2 new models after this one that look very nice. Just please leave a comment down below and share your experience. For now, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Okay, thank you, Rich. So I keep switching between vertical and horizontal because sometimes I'm not sure which one is the best way, and that is a struggle that I haven't had for a while. Also, I think I've broken my ND filter for the video camera. Sounds like it's loose inside. Time to buy a new one.